I become the chief quant officer of your token project. Most founders launch with a go-to-market strategy, but they have very low control on the market making. Most of the time, they don't have a treasury management plan. And so they end up slowly but surely losing control over the token. That's my quant jump in. And this is where you need to have like a quant in your team to make sure you have quant strategy being designed for your token in order to make your token an active participant in the success of your project. If you're a founder, you need to change your mindset. You need to have a liquidity roadmap. You need to have a liquidity plan on the next few weeks, right? You need to have a treasury management plan. If you don't have it, you will lose control on your token, and slowly but surely you put your situation at risk, right? And I've seen it too many times, right? The tokens become liabilities, and then you struggle again and again, and that could be the death of your project. That's why it needs to stop, right? And this is why you need to have the quant in your team. And the big misconception in crypto is like thinking that your go-to-market strategy ends at TG, right? When it's just getting started. This is where you have like a lot of activations to do, the liquidity to grow, and this is where like the token will become something, an asset, you know, for the company. And this is where like we see too many like issues with like random market making deals, not optimized, with no like convictions and everything. And that's a big issue for your company. And if you don't take the good steps and you don't make the right choices, you will end up having a poor price action, you know, post TG, books very thin, and the liquidity, you know, drying up. And that's a big issue, right? And then we see many founders trying to call the market makers or someone else, you know, to trying to figure out a solution, but you know, they are not really responsive, right? Because you didn't sign a good deal. And that's why we blame often founders, right? Because you can't blame the market makers. In the end, you are the one signing the deal. And that's why, you know, when you launch, you need to have this liquidity roadmap. Because like you have made poor choices, you end up having a poor price action. Then the liquidity can dry up, the books are super thin, and then founders start to complain to market makers, but they have signed a very bad deal. So they are not really responsive, they don't really care. And so that's why you need to make sure you sign those good deals, right? You can't blame the market maker. In the end, founders sign those deals. And then the thing that is super important is like really think about where is the buy pressure coming from? Where will it come from? Will you list on any other centralized exchange? What marketing activities you will have to make sure that, you know, the token stays super healthy and you get the growth, you know, on your product, also leveraging the token. And another super interesting thing, and the thing that will be game changer for your project, is not market making, is treasury management. So that's the thing we are doing. We are helping project build that treasury management entity, you know. By having the quant in your team, you make sure that you have a treasury management plan and you understand like how the best project in the space have built that treasury, right? And you try to leverage what they did to really basically follow some playbook. And this is where it's super important, because once you have that, you will have a guy monitoring the market maker, focused on like monitoring the centralized exchange, the liquidity and everything, and how to be ready inside of the company for some liquidity events, to make sure you secure treasury and you have more runaway, you can build more product, you compound faster, and then the token becomes healthier. You know, you have more price action, more trading activity. And that's the secret nobody's talking in crypto, right? Everybody talks about market makers, but nobody talks about how do you should do treasury management. And most market makers don't really do treasury management. And so what do we actually do? What it is to have the quant in your team? So the first thing is like trying to tailor the best go-to-market strategy based on the market conditions, what are centralization asking, what is your project ADV, how much unlocks will you have at TG, what is your runaway and everything. And building this unique playbook is the key differentiator between project that make it and project that doesn't. Those choices, you know, you will only have one TG. And so that's super important to make sure you do the right choice. So once you have that, the goal is like, after the TG is like to make sure that how to grow the order books, how to grow the liquidity, how to grow, you know, the activity in the books, right? Bring more valuable price action. And all these kind of things, you know, will help you like have like a healthier project, healthier FDV, you know. And, you know, we have models that can fine tune any kinds of price action. And that's the very important thing. And by leveraging that, your token really become more like alive kind of. And that's how you make it in crypto. And I would say that the thing that is very important is like to have this quant approach also. And I know quant trading is very hard, right? Nobody talks about it in crypto. Nobody talks about the fact that you need to have data in, you need to feed those models to then have this execution, right? And we have done like a lot of TG, built so many like treasury management mandate that, you know, in the end, we understand that you can't build that, you know, as a founder. You need to be helped. And that's the thing I think the market really lacks, is like lacks of education, lacks of transparency on that. And that's something very important, right? Because we understand that for founders, it's very hard to understand like how the liquidity is evolving, you know, on the market regarding the token. And so sometimes they're a bit lost on like why my token is underperforming, why is it overperforming, why can I do, you know, and what is the playbook, you know. That's something very unique we offer that I think is the next standard of the industry, and the industry is really moving towards that. And I think it has been like mostly reserved for like the biggest project, you know, like a project above like 1 billion plus FDV. And I think it's changing slowly, and we want to be like, you know, really like making sure that the principles that those guys are using, you know, like the big project or the project who are more mature, you know, can get in earlier, you know, in the younger project, or like smaller in terms of FDV, to make sure they have all the tools to really make it. So that's why if you are fundraising, if you plan to list within the next 6 months, it's super important to start building your go-to-market strategy, like nurture that, and also build your liquidity roadmap and your liquidity plan. Really, it starts now. You know, we see too many projects like starting it's too late, right? And when it's too late, you will not have the best deals, right? So it's very important to start now. And we have like really had crazy stories, you know, of projects, you know, rushing the go-to-market strategies, but because, you know, they make the good choices in the end, they have a successful TG. And that's the most important thing, is like, how can you have the most successful TG? So that's why, you know, that's my quant on Twitter, that's my quant on Telegram. Feel free to DM me. Happy to chat about your go-to-market strategy and how to make your TG a banger.